She called the cops and screamed, "Arrest him right now!" And I was just standing on my own land, staring at her like she had lost her mind. My boots were covered in dust from clearing the lot, the lake shimmering behind me. And this woman, this stranger, was waving a paper in my face like it was the Bible itself. "This is an HOA community," she snapped, "and you can't live here unless you follow my rules." I laughed under my breath. I hadn't even moved my boxes yet, and she was already threatening me. She slapped a fake notice on my truck windshield and yelled, "You can't park here! You don't belong here!" Her voice carried across the quiet street, neighbors peeking from behind curtains. I didn't argue. I stayed calm, because deep inside, I knew something she didn't. She thought I was just some guy dragging his life onto this land, but she was standing there trying to kick out the one man she should have never crossed. Then she pulled out her phone, her hand shaking with fake authority, and told 911, "This man is trespassing! He's dangerous! Arrest him!" My fists clenched, not because of fear, but because I knew how far this game of hers could go. A tow truck rolled up minutes later, hooks ready to drag my truck away, while she smirked like a queen. I let her enjoy it. But when the squad car finally pulled in, sirens fading, I stepped forward, pulled something from my jacket, and her smirk collapsed instantly. She froze, eyes wide, lips trembling. She had no idea who she was really calling the cops on. The officer stepped out of the cruiser, hand resting on his belt, eyes darting between me and the woman who was practically bouncing with fake triumph. "That's him, officer!" she shouted, pointing at me like I was a criminal. "He broke into this lot and refuses to leave. He's dangerous! Arrest him!" Her voice cracked in the air, desperate, but she hid it behind that smug smile. I didn't say a word at first. I just handed the officer my ID, calm and steady. He glanced at it, and his eyes flickered in surprise. His tone shifted immediately. "Ma'am, you need to step back." Her face twitched. "What do you mean? He's trespassing! This is HOA property! I'm the president here!" she barked, puffing up her chest. That's when I spoke, voice low but sharp enough to cut through her lies. "This land isn't yours. It's mine. And before you try to play sheriff again, maybe you should look a little closer at who you're talking to." I pulled my badge from my pocket and held it in the air, letting the sunlight catch it. The officer's stance shifted instantly to respect. Karen froze, her jaw dropped, eyes glued to the badge like it had burned her. The neighbors watching from their windows gasped loud enough to echo across the street. For the first time, she didn't have words. I leaned closer, so only she could hear. "You just tried to have a sheriff arrested on his own land. That's gonna cost you." Her hands shook, but instead of backing down, she doubled down, snapping at the officer, "He's lying! That can't be real! He's faking it!" But her voice cracked, the power slipping through her fingers. And that's when the tow truck driver hesitated, unhooking the chains from my truck and muttering, "I don't want any part of this." Karen's face went red as the tow truck pulled away, her little show slipping through her hands like sand. She stomped closer, pointing her finger inches from my chest. "You think that bad scares me? You're not above the law here. This is my HOA, and I decide who stays and who goes." Her voice cracked, shrill enough that even the officer winced. I kept my stance calm, letting her dig her own hole. "Your HOA?" I asked softly. Funny because, according to the county records, I pulled a folded document from my jacket pocket and handed it to the officer. "This land isn't under any HOA jurisdiction. It never has been." The officer scanned it, nodded once, and his whole posture changed. "Ma'am, this man owns this lot free and clear. Your HOA has no legal authority here." Karen's smile collapsed. No, that's not true. I filed the paperwork myself," she stammered, fumbling through her purse for crumpled copies of her so-called rules. She shoved them at the officer, hands shaking. "See, right here. He has to follow HOA policy." But the officer didn't even bother looking. "These aren't legal documents. These are just, well, copies you typed up. This isn't recognized by the county." Her voice grew louder, more desperate, her eyes darting toward the neighbors who were now stepping outside, phones raised, recording everything. "He's dangerous," she yelled again, trying to claw back control. "You all don't understand. He doesn't belong here." I tilted my head, my voice steady. You keep saying that, but the truth is, you just don't want someone you can't control living near you. The crowd murmured. Karen's power was slipping fast and she knew it. But instead of backing down, she pulled out her phone again and hissed, "Fine, if the cops won't do their job, I know people who will."
She stormed off to the side, pacing, with her phone pressed to her ear, whispering fast but loud enough for everyone to hear. Yeah, come now, he's here. Don't worry about the cops, I'll handle it." Her eyes cut back at me with a twisted grin, like she had just summoned backup to finish what she started. The officer beside me narrowed his eyes. "Ma'am, who are you calling?" She snapped. "That's none of your business. He's a threat, and I'm not letting him stay here." Minutes later, a black SUV rolled up fast, tires crunching against the gravel. Two men in matching uniforms stepped out, not real cops, but dressed enough to fool the untrained eye. Karen clapped her hands together like a queen greeting her guards. "There, arrest him, now," she ordered, pointing straight at me. The officer tensed, hand going to his radio. "Those aren't my men," he muttered. But before he could call it in, the fake cops started walking toward me, hands on their belts, trying to look official. Karen smirked. "You see, I told you you don't belong here, and I always get what I want." I didn't move. I just slipped my hand into my jacket again, slow and calm. The neighbors gasped, whispering, holding their phones higher to catch every second. One of the fake cops barked, "Sir, you need to come with us, now." I locked eyes with him and said quietly, "If you take one more step, you'll regret it." Karen laughed like she had already won. "You can't stop them! They're with me! You're finished here!" But as the men came closer, I raised my badge higher, my voice echoing across the street. Impersonating law enforcement on a sheriff's property is a federal crime. The SUV doors slammed shut, more neighbors came outside, and for the first time, the fake cops looked like they were the ones trapped. The street fell into a tense silence, broken only by the soft hum of the SUV's engine. The fake officers froze, glancing at each other, their fake authority crumbling under the weight of my words. One of them muttered, "Sheriff?" like he couldn't believe what he just heard. Karen stepped forward, waving her arms like she could still control the scene. "Don't listen to him! That badge is fake! He's bluffing! Arrest him! Do your job!" Her voice was desperate now, shrill, echoing across the lakefront. The officer beside me finally spoke, his voice sharp. "Ma'am, stand down. These men are not law enforcement. If they touch him, they'll be charged." He pulled his radio to call backup, and the sound of static filled the air. Karen's face twisted, fury and panic fighting for space. "No, you don't understand. He's dangerous. He'll ruin everything." She turned toward the neighbors, her voice cracking. "Why are you all just standing there? Do something!" But the neighbors didn't move. They just kept recording, their eyes locked on her every meltdown. One of the neighbors shouted back, "You're the one breaking the law, Karen!" Her body stiffened, like the ground had just been ripped out from under her. And in that split second, one of the fake cops tried to back away, sliding toward the SUV. I pointed at him. "Stay right there. The real backup is already on the way." Karen spun toward me, her voice shaking now. You set me up, didn't you? This was all a trap?" I took a step closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "No, Karen, you set yourself up. I just let you show everyone who you really are." The SUV doors slammed again as the fake cops tried to get back inside, but the sound of approaching sirens grew louder in the distance, red and blue lights flickering down the road. Karen's smirk was gone. All that was left was fear. The sirens grew louder, until two more patrol cars slid to a stop, dust curling into the air. Real deputies stepped out, their eyes immediately locking on the fake cops by the SUV. "Hands where we can see them," one shouted, guns drawn. The fake cops froze, then slowly raised their hands, their fake authority crumbling under the weight of my words. Karen's cracked as she tried to spin the story back in her favor. "Officers, thank God you're here. He's pretending to be one of you. He's trespassing on HOA property, and these men were just helping me." Her words stumbled, each one weaker than the last, but she forced a smile like she could still fool someone. One deputy walked straight to me, nodded, and said, "Sheriff." The word hit the air like a hammer, and Karen's face drained of all color. The crowd of neighbors gasped, some even cheering under their breath. Karen shook her head wildly, clutching her fake paperwork. No, no, you don't understand. He can't live here. This neighborhood has rules. She shoved the crumpled papers at the deputies, but they didn't even look. Instead, one of them snapped handcuffs onto the wrists of her hired muscle. As the men were led away, Karen staggered back, pointing at me like a cornered animal. You tricked me. You ruined everything. I looked at her, steady, calm, the way I always did when dealing with liars. No, Karen, you ruined yourself. All I did was stand on my land. The neighbors started clapping then, some laughing, some shaking their heads, their phones still recording every second. Karen's empire of fake rules had crumbled in front of everyone, and the weight of it hit her like a storm. She opened her mouth to scream again, but the deputy cut her off. Ma'am, you're coming with us. Impersonating authority, filing false reports, harassment. He read the list as her hands were pulled behind her back. Her eyes locked with mine, full of rage and disbelief. This isn't over, she hissed. I leaned just enough for her to hear me. For you, it just might be.